What is happening in real estate?
Well, I'm going to drop Jeff down into the lobby and put our stats up. And here we are, May the 8th, and we have only 17 days of inventory, which is historically
17
low.
days.
Yes, 17 days of inventory. We have 2,735 available condos, single-family homes, and townhomes. And that's only 17 days worth because we're selling on average 113 homes a day. Now, that's because it's the beginning of the month. Last month, it got to a record high of 155 homes we were selling a day. And as the month goes on, we'll see more and more that number increase, probably get pretty close to that 150. So that's what we're looking at. All of this year so far, we're averaging 136 homes a day being sold. The good news for me as a real estate broker is that we just listed 174 homes in Las Vegas. And that's why it went from 16 days of inventory to 17, because we were able to list more than we sold. We sold 157 homes yesterday, but we listed 174. And I always like that number
Yes.
next to be a little bit higher.
Absolutely.
And the $1 million homes are amazing this year. All of last year, we sold 618 homes over $1 million. That's the total year. This year already, 4 months and 8 days into this year, we've sold 516 homes over $1 million, which is 84% of what we did all of last year.
Wow.
In the first 4 or 5 months. I mean, that's just amazing. The $1 million homes just are flying away. And the one thing that we have to say is those Californians, they just keep coming with their money and they keep buying those homes. So that's really a wonderful thing. One of the things that I wanted to bring up today, Max, is that inflation and rising mortgage rates are on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the consumer price index rose 1.7% since last year when it had sunk to zero. And the increase, the 1.7 increase was driven by higher prices in used cars, utilities, meats, healthcare. And in addition, the rental homes went up 1.5% in the monthly rent. And while the home prices rose 15% for this year, they're not in that index. And they're not in that index because they're an asset. They're not a, what would you call it? A
consumable good.
Yeah, consumable, yeah. And so inflation can push up the mortgage rates. And the Federal Reserve recently said it won't raise interest rates until 2023. But no matter, mortgage rates may still climb. So the Fed rate and the mortgage rate are two different things.
Yes.
The lending industry buys the money from the Feds at their rate, so they have to make money. So they probably are going to increase their rates. And it's interesting, Max, because the millennials have never experienced what we experienced back in 1970. Were you born then?
Yes, I was barely born then.
You're barely born then.
I was the latter half of that decade.
Well, inflation averaged about 7.1% back then, and it topped out at 11% in 1979, and that was the same interest rate to buy a home. And the primary cause was excessive printing of money, and that's similar to what's happening right now. So
we're a little different, though. I mean, I'll make a comment on the inflation thing. Is like in this environment, we're a little different than it was in the 1970s. I think in the 1970s, in 60s, I think Nixon or the president before him got us off the gold standard, right? Where our dollar was backed by actually physical gold stored in Fort Knox at the Federal Reserve. And so we got off that standard, and the rest of the world was still running on that standard, right? Where they were supposed to have, physical gold backing their own currencies. The difference then is that today across the world, we run on a central banking system where everybody around the world is printing money just like we are. The only country supposedly that has a bunch of gold is Russia right now. And for the most part, we're not too concerned about Russia as far as a trading partner. And so with China being our largest trading partner, right, with our goods and services, and for whatever reason, the Chinese government decides to devalue their currencies to make sure they stay competitive as a manufacturing hub across the world. So that actually helps Americans and the American dollar, because we don't have to worry about our trade deficit that we have with China right now being, decimated by the dollar, or the devaluation of our dollar because of all our money printing.
Yeah.
So the inflation that we're seeing right now, as far as like the lumber prices, that's in the news right now. Lumber prices are up like 40, 30, 40,
Yes.
50% or something from last year. I'm having some shiplap done. If you can see in the background here, shiplap prices doubled in price over the last like month, which is crazy.
Wow.
So
yes.
So my contractor's a little mad because he quoted me a price a month ago and he had to eat the cost of that. But yeah, but this is more of supply chain issues right now, right? The ramping up of demand for goods, services right now as the economy starts to pick up is forcing inflation in the short term.
Yeah.
We don't think that's going to continue for too long. At one point, everybody will spend all the stimulus money, and we'll get back to normal times. And so, inflation is not going to run rampant. I know Janet Yellen spoke this week, and she kind of put her foot in her mouth, and the stock market kind of went down just a little bit here. But we don't think the days of us going back to rampant inflation like we did in the 70s, where mortgage rates were like 15% in the 80s.
Right, I remember.
It's far off, simply. And the reason why we see asset prices climbing like real estate and the stock market today is the fact that over the course of the last 20, 30 years, we printed $24 additional trillion of money out of thin air. And that money just doesn't disappear. Once the Fed prints that money, it doesn't disappear. It recirculates in the system and eventually lands in the hands of investors, institutions, and big corporations, which in turn, in a low interest rate environment that we're in right now, have to deploy that money into something that continues to beat out inflation, which is now running at 2.6% right now.
Yeah.
So that's why real estate over the last 30 years, the more money has been printed, the real estate prices have accelerated, right? Because real assets are being bought up, and the demand for them are being bought up tremendously. So I just want to make that comment. I don't think we need to worry too much about mortgage rates until there is a little bit of a correlation between the Federal Reserve's Fed's window rate that the banks can borrow at versus what the banks are going to charge.
Right.
And so until that rises, actually mortgage rates have come down this week because the 10-year Treasury yield has come down. So
and they're also saying in this article that Dr. Lawrence Young, the chief economist of NAR, wrote that they don't see things happening until maybe after 2022, and inflation will probably get like 2% next year. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. I actually did a show this week on there isn't a bubble, and explained why we don't have a bubble in real estate either, which trying to inform the public and get the real estate agents out there to inform the public as much as possible about these issues. I think the only caution that I would give to agents and first-time home buyers may be affected if the rates go up a little bit. That's the only issue I see. So I think the market is fantastic. We got low interest rates still. We still have first-time home buyers coming into the market. We have investors coming into the market. We have people moving from California here. There's a lot of moving across the whole country. And right now it's all good. And I think that people are in their mind, they just want to buy a home. And 10 years ago, the median priced home here was 120,000. Now it's 120. I know, and it's tripled. And it's tripled. So I think people realize, what a great investment home ownership is. So anyway, that's it for me today. I see the Raiders are just going on fire. Their value has doubled since they announced they were coming to Vegas. So that's a good thing. There's some rumors about the draft again, but I don't want to speak out of, just what I heard. I haven't seen it in writing yet, but we'll see. Anyway, lots of good things going on. Shows are selling out. The hotels are coming back. So
Yeah.
Las Vegas is back.
Weekends are booked right
Yes.
now in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So